All right, let's talk about the Freemasons. They're probably the most famous, or maybe infamous, secret society in the world. But here's the deal. We're going to push all the wild conspiracies to the side and stick strictly to what the historical record actually tells us.
So let's just cut right to the chase, right? Are the Freemasons a shadowy group secretly running the world, or are they basically just a social club with some weird handshakes? The real story, based on the documents, is probably not what you're expecting.
You've got the myth on one side, this idea of a secret cabal pulling all the strings in government and finance, but then you look at the reality from the historical sources, and it describes something, well, something much more practical. A social network, really, built for trust and self-improvement, especially during times when politics and religion were tearing everyone apart.
To really get what the Freemasons are all about, you have to go back to the beginning. And I'm not talking about the Knights Templar or some ancient Egyptian mystery. Nope. The story starts with actual, working stonemasons.
Think about it. Back in the Middle Ages, these guys were the elite craftsmen building the great cathedrals. Their guilds used secret signs and handshakes as a way to protect their jobs and prove their skills. It was like a medieval LinkedIn password. But then, by the late 1600s, something really interesting starts to happen. Gentlemen, thinkers, guys who had never touched a chisel in their lives, they start joining. They were called accepted Masons. And this all led up to 1717 when the first Grand Lodge was formed in London. That's the moment the whole organization officially pivoted from building structures to, well, building character.
This big change didn't happen in a vacuum, of course. It was happening right in the middle of the Age of Enlightenment. So the society just soaked up all those new ideas about reason, science, and morality from thinkers like John Locke and Isaac Newton. The goal wasn't some grand conspiracy, it was to create a private space where men from different classes and religions could actually meet as equals and talk about making themselves better people.
Okay, so that's the history. But how does it all actually work? What goes on inside the lodge? And who can even get in?
So the whole journey for a member is built around 3 main steps, or degrees. Think of them as stages of personal growth. You start as an entered apprentice, basically the rookie learning the ropes. Then you become a fellow craft, where you dive deeper into learning about the world. And finally, you can become a master mason, which is the highest of the core degrees and focuses on big questions about morality and life. It's a symbolic journey told through stories and symbols. Now, there's one really crucial requirement to join a traditional lodge. You have to believe in a supreme being. But here's the thing. They call it the great architect of the universe. That term is super vague on purpose. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or something else. The whole point was to get past the religious wars that were raging at the time. The one group this does exclude, though, is atheists.
So if they're just a philosophical society that does some charity work, where in the world did all the stories come from? You know, the New World Order, controlling governments, all of that?
The history is actually super clear on this. The conspiracy theories that we all know today, they're not some ancient truth that's been uncovered. They were pretty much invented in the 1800s by political and religious groups that saw the Masons as a huge threat to their own power.
You really had a perfect storm for conspiracies brewing. First, you have all these secret rituals. To an outsider, that just looks suspicious, right? Second, you had a ton of powerful people, presidents, kings, you name it, who were members. So it was easy to assume the whole organization was pulling the strings. And third, powerful institutions, especially the Catholic Church, saw their scientific, reason-based worldview as a direct attack on religion.
All right, let's try to untangle all of this. What's fact and what's fiction? How much influence do the Freemasons really have?
I mean, there's no denying that some seriously influential people were Masons. We're talking George Washington, Mozart, Benjamin Franklin. The list just goes on and on. But here's the critical difference. The evidence shows they acted as individuals who were shaped by Masonic ideals. You know, reason, liberty, that kind of thing. They weren't getting secret orders from some grand master telling them how to run a country or what to put in an opera.
When you dig into the historical analysis, there's just no evidence that some central Masonic command center was directing world events. It was a network, a place for powerful people to connect for sure, but it was not a chain of command. The whole idea that they secretly control everything is just an exaggeration that spun out of control.
Okay, so what about today? What role do the Masons play in the 21st century? Are they still a force to be reckoned with?
Worldwide, their numbers are still pretty big, estimated around 3 million people. But, and this is a big but, every source agrees that this number is way down from its peak in the mid-20th century. It's been in a long, slow decline for decades.
And their focus has shifted dramatically. Today, if you look at what most lodges actually do, it's mostly local charity work and just being a social club for its members. A huge part of their mission now is simply preserving their own history and traditions. The grand philosophical debates have pretty much been replaced by pancake breakfasts and scholarship fund.
I mean, the world has just changed. In the internet age, a secret society feels less mysterious and more kind of outdated. People, especially younger generations, find their communities online now. And the formal, ritual-heavy structure, plus that strict requirement to believe in a supreme being, just doesn't have the same appeal in our much more secular and diverse world.
When you get right down to it, the whole Freemason conspiracy saga might tell us a lot more about ourselves than it does about the Masons. It points to this very human desire we have for simple answers to really complex problems. We want to believe there's a hidden hand, that someone is in control of all the chaos. The history books show us a philosophical club, but the myth shows us a deep-seated need to believe that someone, somewhere, is pulling the strings.